People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
Oh man, I'm so excited about today's episode, Natalie. We have a vocal coach, a vocal health coach, a two-time world champion coach. This is awesome for anybody that's a singer, that's a speaker, anybody that performs on stage, anybody that uses their voice. They need this. They've been through this. Their voice locks up on stage. It's a terrible feeling. Everybody, today we have Katti Power. What's happening, Katti? How are you?
I am great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to having you. I don't know if it's Pavlovian, but my throat's locking up just as I'm talking to you. I feel like I need to cough, and I don't know if I'm allowed to cough. I don't know what I need to do. So
you do you.
I know, but we're talking about it. It's just getting
in your head.
So, how did you get started in the whole vocal health coach thing? You started out as a singer, correct?
I sure did. Yes, I was trained professionally to sing and act, and I was working in theater primarily, but I was also in bands. But I worked a number of years ago. I worked on a cruise ship. And I lost my voice, but it took a while. So I was a cast of 6, and everyone lost their voice except me. And it took about about 6 months in for my voice to start to weaken and feel a little funny. And then one day it just disappeared altogether, and I put myself on vocal rest. First, I had to break my contract. So if you have been in the performance industry, you know that's not a cheap thing to do.
Yeah.
And I was in Tahiti, so that made it extra expensive.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Probably the only bad piece about being in Tahiti, by the way, because that was amazing. But I sent myself home and put myself on vocal rest for almost a year. And while I was on rest, I did some research and some studying and some trial and error. And I figured out why that happened to me and how to make sure it never happened again. And then very shortly thereafter, I became a vocal coach. Those are two things that are not related at all, but it just sort of happened. And I decided when I became a vocal coach, since I figured this out for myself, I was going to make sure that everyone that crossed my path had the same training that I had figured out. And I came to realize very quickly that what I figured out on my own is a secret that is unknown. And people out there are not aware of this, and I have never once in 21 years had someone come to me who already knew all of this, and that amazed me.
Well, let's start with vocal rest.
Yes.
So I was in chorus and show choir all through school. Natalie had drama all through school. She was a drama. She calls herself a drama geek. So we both grew up on the stage, even in high school level, and now we're doing 400 shows a year. We've seen it all. We've seen the kids. I even tried sucking on lemon juice. I would buy the lemon juice containers and the hot tea and the this and the that and the honey. What do you call vocal rest, though? Were you writing notes? I've seen it be that extreme where people wouldn't talk at all and they just write notes for a week.
Yeah. So it started out that way. In the beginning, I think I did the complete silent treatment. I think I did that for about a month. And then the rest of the time, I was just very, very limited. I wasn't singing except for, so I didn't know a whole lot about proper vocal rest back then. But the correct way to do it is not to be completely silent. It's to be primarily silent, but then a few times throughout the day to use your voice in various places in your range. Usually I recommend that people do like humming or buzzing, like or kind of stuff all over in different places of their range 3 or 4 times a day. That way the muscles surrounding vocal production don't get atrophied, just kind of like athletes who stop doing their sports thing, their muscles end up atrophying. The same thing can happen with singers, especially on an extended period of vocal rest. So you want to make sure that you are using those muscles, but not in a strained kind of way. So I was completely silent for about a month, and then I started talking, only as needed, and I wasn't singing. I didn't sing for probably 5 or 6 months, and I just kept everything to a bare minimum. Unless I absolutely needed to, I didn't make sound.
Goodness.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
No, Wes wouldn't last a day. Not one single day.
It is funny, though. You asked me how I got started on this, and it's funny to me because somehow I've always been concerned about vocal health and losing my voice. And I really don't know if that was instilled in me with my first voice teacher, but the fact that I knew to put myself on vocal rest and I was committed to it for that long, that lets me know that it obviously was on my radar.
Right.
Yeah, so I know that it's something that I apparently cared about. And, I even remember learning things with a different voice teacher right before I started going out into the world and not being a student. I learned some technique that in the beginning I refused to do it because I was afraid it was dangerous and would ruin my voice. So I guess I've kind of always had this need and desire to completely protect my voice from whatever.
Yeah.
So did you sing in high school and in church on Sundays? Where did your singing start?
Yeah, I've been singing since I was about 5 years old. This is a cheeseball story, hope you're ready for it, but I saw the movie Annie in the theater, and
Wow.
I was 5 years old, and I was smart enough to recognize that she was an actor, and I decided that I wanted to be just like her, and I sang every single song from it. I gave concerts to my family when I was a kid, and
Aww.
I got into any kind of singing that someone would allow me to do as young as I could. So, yeah. And then, yes, once I got to high school, all of the opportunities opened up. So I was in theater and choir and voice lessons and piano and all that kind of stuff. So it's really been my life this whole time.
So then you got, so cruise industry, there's lots of magicians in the cruise industry.
Yeah.
When you lost your voice, you guys all just, that was it? You lost your jobs and that was it? You're done?
Well, so most of the people lost their voices during the rehearsal period, or they would just kind of lose it for a couple of days. And I was also the vocal captain on our show, which probably should have been my first sign that I should have been a voice teacher from the beginning. But so whenever anybody was out, if they were sick, if they had any kind of vocal issue, I had to revoice the show so that whoever was left, we could still do the show without that person.
Now,
So I had to know all the parts and basically recast it and reassign different things to different people.
Now, do you know if a lot of cruise ships, or a majority of cruise ships, or a small majority, do they sing to a track? Because I think some do at this point.
Yeah, I imagine they do. I know that we did, but we had a band, and so it was kind of weird because we were all, like, the band was on a click because we had tracks in the background, and then the band played along with them.
Okay.
And I would guess that that's a lot of what happens, but I honestly don't know if that's what happens. But they, and they usually, during your rehearsal period, will schedule a time for the singers to all do sweeteners. So you go in and you record all of the ensemble background vocals that pipe through the tracks as well, so that you're singing with yourself. But none of the solo work is recorded.
Oh, okay. That's it right there. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw a magician who is also a singer, and he had a voice track. I talked to somebody that knows this guy, and he had a voice track where he could have just pushed play, but he was losing his voice, and it was very strained, and even him talking in the talking portions was strained. And man, it sucked the entertainment out of the entire experience. The show suffered, and anytime he sung, it was just way horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't good, and it was sad because he could sing because when he had his voice it was fine, but by the time we saw it, oh man.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
he was
and it's
burned
hard
out.
as an audience member to watch someone who's struggling because you feel instead of being entertained and being caught up in whatever they're presenting, you are worried about them.
Right.
well,
so it
and
just
us being
takes it right
entertainers.
out.
Sorry,
Hmm?
what was the last thing you said?
Oh, I was saying, so you're worried about them, and so it just kind of takes the magic right out of it.
Well,
Right.
and then us being entertainers, we put ourselves in his shoes so quickly. And we're
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
oh. And then I
Yeah.
asked somebody, and they're like, yeah, he just wants to prove to everybody that he really is a good singer, and he won't use the voice track. We've all begged him to use the voice track, and he won't do it. And I'm like, oh, that was just like a final nail in the coffin. It's like, dude, you got to recoup sometimes. I don't know. Or hire Katie. You got to do
I can
something.
help him.
You got to do something. All right,
Yeah.
so you left the cruise ship. How long was your gig on the cruise ship?
It was supposed to be 9 months, and I left at the 7-ish month mark, so I left a couple months early.
And that was your first excursion?
Yep, it was my first and only.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I've mostly done regional theater.
Since,
But
since?
that was yeah.
But you also like do singing competitions and judge also. I mean, you're not only a coach. I mean, you're into your fingers are in all those pies.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. They are now, for sure. When I was performing full-time, I was primarily in theater and bands. But I have, since becoming a coach, my hands have definitely been in the competition circuit, in the pageant circuit, the theater circuit, film, what else? I feel like there's definitely bands, singer-songwriters. I've been in the studio with clients, all kinds of stuff, yeah.
So is that a secret thing? Are you allowed to say what bands or singers you've worked with? Anybody would know?
I have not worked with anyone you've probably heard of.
Okay.
Not yet, anyway.
Well, about
Working on that.
the award-winning two-time world champion coach. Tell me about that and getting to the
Yeah.
championship.
Yes. So I've been involved in coaching a lot of private clients, but I also get sometimes recruited and promoted by some of these national and international singing competitions. And one of my clients won in 2018, and a different one won in 2019. So they made it. The first one, he had won his state competition many times, but had never had any luck at nationals. And when I first met him, I was like, dude, you could take this whole thing. So my goal was for him to win worlds, and he was so worried about nationals, and I said, nah, the only way you can win nationals the only way you can go to worlds is if you win nationals, so let's focus on winning worlds, and then that'll make nationals a done deal. And that worked. So he won
Nice.
worlds, and he went on to record his own album. He lives in Minnesota. Actually, both of my world champions live in Minnesota, which is kind of funny to me. He went on to get recruited by the Twin Cities Pride to write and record a theme song for their Pride event. So that's pretty cool. So he's created their theme song, which is on Spotify, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my second one, she also lives in Minnesota, and she's been in a whole bunch of competitions. And unfortunately, she had the plight of coming in second a whole bunch. And
Aw.
so she wasn't able to make it to the world level because she kept coming in second. And so we were like, okay, let's make this happen. And she made it to the world level of a different competition and won the whole thing. It was in Sweden. I was there too. It was really fun. And the first client, his name is Miko. He won in Finland, and Beth won in Sweden. So that was really fun.
That's awesome.
All right, so Magic has something called FISM. It's like the Olympics of Magic's held in a foreign country every 4 years. Is that what this World Championship is? It sounds the same.
Totally. It's very much like that. So there are local competitions that advance to state competitions, that advance to national competitions, that advance to the international competition. And so you have to make it all the way up there to go to the international level.
See, I feel like a layman in the music because I only think of America's Got Talent or the one with the voice where the chair turns around.
Yeah.
I thought that's the only singing competition.
The Voice.
Yeah.
And Idol. Yes, all of those. And it's very similar to all of that where there's a million different levels you have to pass in order to get there. So it's a similar kind of concept. Yeah. You know, I have a magic connection too. I don't think I told you this.
I want to hear this.
My uncle has been into illusions his entire life, and when I was a kid, he always used to give us some kind of illusion that we could learn, and he was always interested in showing us how to do different magic shows and things. And he ended up starting a company with a buddy of his a long time ago, and they made illusions for some of the big magicians, and he still does it on his own. So he has one of his illusions is with Penn and Teller.
Nice.
Here in
Very
Vegas.
cool.
Yeah. So that's my little connection to magic.
So can you tell me the guy's name? I probably know him.
Oh yeah, his name is George Richbark, and his company was called Douglas Wayne Illusioneering, which were the middle names
Don
of the two
Wayne.
guys.
Don Wayne? Was he with Don Wayne?
I'm not sure what his partner's name was, actually. I never met his partner.
I'm Googling now. So it's Douglas what?
Yeah. Douglas Wayne Illusioneering. So my uncle's middle name is Douglas.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. I
Yeah.
got something to learn. I anything like that is so cool to me. So you're in
Yeah.
Vegas?
Yes, I live in Vegas.
Do you help with any of the shows out there?
Well, honestly, so I used to travel full time, and this was my home base, and then I got divorced, and so now I live here full time, and then COVID happened right when I moved here full time, so I'm just starting to feel out Vegas and get used to what's here and who's here, so I'm looking forward to getting plugged in, but I haven't really done any of that yet.
Yeah.
But it's on my agenda.
Well, you were talking about the COVID thing and all that. I took a note here, using your voice after COVID. You're talking about taking a break and letting that muscle atrophy. You know, we had a few, I don't know, more than a couple handfuls, but not enough to brag about, of the Zoom shows where we were doing magic shows out of our home during COVID.
Yeah.
But when things opened back up, this October, we had 48 shows in that 1 month. And the difference of not using my voice and then projecting 3 to 4 shows
Absolutely.
a day for 45 minutes and then, you know, doing another one. It used to take 20 shows.
That
And
going from 0 to 60
Yes.
in a quick period is very challenging.
you feel like it's a muscle atrophy. It feels like you've done bicep curls too much in your throat. I mean, I don't know how you explain it. You know, you do bicep curls, that muscle gets fatigued and hurt. That's what your throat feels like at the end of the day. That's the best way I can explain it.
I think about how even when you go to sleep at night and hopefully you get about 8 hours of sleep and you wake up in the morning and you're kind of froggy, partially because you've been horizontal and your body the phlegm kind of travels around, but also because you haven't used your voice very much for 8 whole hours. And so when you wake up, sometimes your voice is, you need to warm it. You need to get it ready because it's not prepared for something like that. And that's kind of what you're talking about, where you go that long period of time and then all of a sudden you have a whole bunch that you have to do. And my whole thing is about prevention rather than managing symptoms. So most people, when it comes to vocal health, they wait until it's a problem, and then they rush out and they figure out, oh my gosh, how can I fix this? Where instead, I always say unfortunately, there really are no quick fixes. There are fixes that will manage symptoms, but they won't make the problem go away, and they will make sure that you continue. Well, they won't, but not fixing the problem means that you're still going to have a problem, which means you're going to continue to suffer this consequence. But if you learn how to prevent it completely, then that's never an issue at all.
So, do you have any tips or tricks you can share with us? Is all that stuff I did in high school a joke? Like the lemon and the hot tea and the
and the honey
and the
gargling salt water
and the spray. I had
those are all symptom management. So
okay.
I usually say, if you get yourself in a situation before you learn how to prevent it, then those kinds of things are going to just help you, feel better. But the danger of those kinds of things is if any of them take the symptoms away completely, then you feel like you're superhuman again. You go out and trash your voice again, and then once it all wears off, then you feel worse. So that's a problem that I have sometimes with things like that. Like there are a lot of things that have numbing agents and stuff like that, and so that can be very dangerous. Technique, learning how to, I will tell you the three major pillars of my method, which is called Unlimited Vocal Health, which prevents it completely. There are three major pillars, and the first one is establishing a solid foundation, which I call vocal core power. And there are a lot of steps inside that, but that is just the foundation of whatever you're doing in using your voice. You need to have a solid foundation, technical foundation. Number two is placement of sound. And this is a little bit trickier for people because it's not traditionally taught. A lot of times because in the singing world anyway, but even in the acting world, classical vocal technique is primarily what is taught, which requires, if you've ever heard when you were in choir, if you heard them tell you to make a lot of space in the back of your mouth. That is wonderful advice if you are singing opera. But if you're not, it's terrible advice. So making that big space in the back is what causes your voice to have a limited range. So a lot of people think that they don't have very much range, whether in their speaking voice or their singing voice. And it's that big, huge space that you make in the back of your mouth that causes that. That's what causes you, if you've ever heard people in the singing world talk about their chest voice and their head voice. That's what happens when you make that space in the back. You have a chest voice, you have a head voice, you have breaks. All of that goes away when you don't make that space in the back.
I was always told to sing from your belly. So they're like,
yes.
I know girls want to have a flat belly, but you expand your belly when you take a breath for singing, and you use those ab muscles to push the voice out. Is always what I was told.
That's amazing. That's amazing you were taught that.
Oh,
so many people don't know that.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's a huge piece of the foundation part. Yeah. And then the third component is managing high notes, which for speaking is managing volume and the upper notes of your speaking voice. And for singing, it's obviously singing high notes. But there's a certain amount of shaping of your mouth that needs to happen depending on where in your range you're using your voice. And I tell people all the time, if you're doing it correctly, you can sing or speak as long and as loud as you want for hours and hours and hours and hours, days after day after day after day, and not experience any fatigue whatsoever. But if you're doing any of those, if you're missing any of those components, that's when you're going to have a problem. So my first world champion singer I told you about that went into the studio to record an album, his producer asked for my contact information because he wanted to thank me, because he said he'd never had anyone come into the studio and work 8-hour days for an entire week without experiencing any fatigue. And I was like, well,
Nice.
yeah, it is possible.
Man,
I want you to know.
That says it all right there.
Right.
That is
Yeah.
that is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've never lost my voice since I did back in 99. So that kind of, meant a lot to me. But I also have had, you know, two plus decades of clients over this whole time that have never lost their voices either.
That's
Wow.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the stuff that I'm thinking about with my voice,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about I've already gone too far. I need to concentrate and think about it all the time, not just when symptoms arise.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So stopping it beforehand, learning how to use your voice in a way that it will always be there for you no matter what. And then what happens is all those quick fixes that you have relied on in the past, those are just bonuses when you're tired, or if you're, you haven't had a whole lot of sleep, or you just feel like it. And, like, I don't have any of those kinds of things in my house ever because I don't need them.
Right.
Well,
Wow.
I was doing a show a couple of days ago and my voice started to lock up, and just throwing a mint in my mouth. I mean, that's all I need. That got me over the hump. But also me knowing that I have a lot of dialogue coming up, that gets in my head, and that makes it exacerbates it, because I know I have big dialogue coming up. So it feels like my throat locks up even more. It could be Pavlovian, I don't know, but yeah, that's scary.
Well, the stress, stress can play a huge role in the function of your voice. If you are massively stressed out, you are going to have that experience. And I have that with singers a lot of times, particularly with high notes. If they freak out about an upcoming high note, they don't know if they're going to make it or not, their whole body goes into this like constriction mode. And certain parts of yours probably are doing that as well. There's a part of you that's thinking, oh, here comes the big section where I'm going to talk for a long time. And there's a certain part of your musculature that is just tensing up because you're stressed out about it.
I can see that, because I know I have a big talking part, and I've already got scratchy, and I'm afraid my voice. I've had my voice. It sounds weird, but it's like it misses a gear. It just locks, and I can't get that word out. And it's awful, because you got 1,000 eyes on you, and everybody's waiting to see. And even if it's just a stumble, just for a split second, in show business,
It feels longer to you.
It feels like forever.
Yes, yes.
And it feels like there's a giant spotlight on you and a huge microphone, and everyone notices.
Right.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. And that kind of pressure plays a role. So I always say in my foundation work that the very first step of all of it is relaxation. So like you were talking about, Natalie, about the belly, like singing from your belly, the only way you can take a breath from that place of your body is if you're relaxed. Because like you said, we women like to hold our bellies in all day long.
Right, exactly.
So if you hold your belly in and then you try to take a breath down there, it's not going to happen. It's going to fill up in your chest.
Exactly, yeah.
So the relaxation, even just of that, but relaxation of your whole body, making sound with your voice it's a full body exercise. It requires your whole body. So your whole body has to be relaxed for anything to happen in a safe and healthy way.
So you need to start speaking from your belly, honey. That's it. That way you know you're relaxed.
Yeah, I'm trying to flex my abs on stage too
I know,
much.
exactly.
Maybe that's what it is.
You gotta let go. You gotta let go a little bit. Yeah.
All right, so
well, it's tricky because you have to. This is where it gets tricky because you have to relax it in order to take a breath. But then, like you said, you have to tighten it as you make sound
to push out the air. Yeah.
Project.
Yeah. So in order to make that projection happen safely, that you have to engage those core muscles just like you're working out. But you have to relax them in order to take a breath. So otherwise, what happens is when you're tightened like that, the breath comes into the chest, and then you're in what I call panic mode. So if you've ever hyperventilated, it's a very shallow breath that's happening in the upper part of your chest, and that's what happens when we breathe with a tightened belly. Our bodies are in panic mode. which that is never going to create a healthy environment for sound production.
Wow.
You know, as a professional, it sounds awful to say I'm panicking, but when I feel my voice get ready to lock up, I get
You panic.
yeah, it's like a full body, almost like a hot sweat, but I mean, I'm not sweating, but my body temperature goes up, and I'm like, Natalie, I need a mint. I need it now. I need something now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
The
yeah.
very best thing you can do in those moments is to take a moment, and I always just put a hand on my belly if I have any kind of freak out happening. Just put a hand on your belly to remind you, oh yeah, I have to relax right here. I have to relax.
That sounds great, but I'm on stage talking
Yep.
when it
I do
happens.
it too. You can do that. Just put a little hand on your belly, and you'll feel it. And you'll be like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
I have to work that into my act.
Yeah.
That's funny. We had a code when Natalie was pregnant with our first child 10 years ago. What was the code? Do you remember?
I think we said like spaghetti or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Something
smell
like that.
spaghetti or something. If her water breaks, I didn't want
Or
the
go
whole
into labor.
audience knowing that her water broke and freaking everybody out. So she's going to tell me she smells spaghetti, which has nothing to do with anything. It was like, yeah, so I need something in my act to say, hey honey, I need a mint. I need a break.
your hand on
Yeah,
your belly.
you take it over. I
Hand
need a
on your
break.
belly.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath
So-
on your belly. Yep.
All right, so I want to prevent all of this. Hydration, sleep, don't stress
Yes.
out. I think 99 I do 400 shows a year. So it's not like I walk on stage and my voice locks up every single show. It happens once every 3 months, once every 6 months.
Yes.
But when it happens, it sucks and it's memorable after the event. I mean, for me, hopefully not for the audience. I think it might be like I have a bug. I have a scratchy throat. I don't think I'm doing anything any different. When you get a cold coming on, your throat starts to do weird stuff. You have phlegm. You have other things going on. Besides hydration and sleep, what else could I do preventative when I have a cold coming on?
Yeah, well, the thing about being sick is that your body is weakened. And so if you're not in a position where your technique is top notch and in prevention mode already, then when your immune system is weakened, that's going to be the area. A lot of people, when they're sick, they lose their voices, and a lot of that is related to the fact that they aren't using the proper technique when they're not sick. So losing your voice ends up being a symptom of being sick. And so sometimes people with allergies have a totally different experience with voice loss. But when the prevention is all about the technique. It's all about those 3 things that I was telling you about. Those are the 3 things that have to be in check. And sleep and water are a must. I had a client, she's brilliant. She's such a fantastic singer. She is a single mom, and she works for the police department, and she works like 18-hour days. And she has a little girl at home. And so she was doing a competition that, because of COVID, had moved online. And she kept having to record videos of herself singing, but the only time she could get a good recording was while her daughter was asleep. So after having an 18-hour day, she would come home and go in her bathroom and set up a studio and try and sing. And she did that day after day after day. And so she's experiencing all kinds of problems. So even though her technique is perfect, because she wasn't getting the sleep and the water that she needed, she had an issue. And that's why that is a piece of it as well. And sick is the same kind of thing. Your body, when you don't get enough sleep and you don't get enough water, is going to be almost in a sick kind of mode. When your body is in a sick mode, it's going to have the same reaction, where it's not going to be able to function the way that it needs to.
Well, you
The
mentioned something.
technique is really the prevention piece.
You mentioned something about allergies that I forgot about, because I'm just thinking about the last time I locked up, I was on a stage. But we were doing that amphitheater outside, and that guy was cutting grass on that ball field behind us.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually had to
That
stop the
messed you
show. I had to stop the show. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. And I had to literally take a break and tell them, hey, my allergies are acting up. My voice locked several times during that show. My eyes started watering.
So is that preventable with allergies?
I take allergy medicine.
Right. But if you do your strategy, will that prevent that as well, even though it's allergies like that?
I think everyone is different with allergies. I have had several clients who have allergies, and the one thing that I've noticed primarily with people that have allergies, that a lot of times, well, one in particular, I'll talk about her. She is an actress, and she used to, when she was having a bad bout of allergies, which was very frequently actually, she would just do kind of the bare minimum when it came to a vocal warm-up so that she could save her voice. I say that with air quotes, by the way, because there is no such thing as saving your voice. We think we can, but it's not a real thing. It's kind of like putting a cast on your leg in order to prevent getting a broken leg.
Oh, goodness.
So you can't really save it. It gets damaged from use, not from not use. So anyway, so she would just do a little bit of exercises in the beginning, a little bit of vocal warm-up in the beginning so that she could sing, but she kept trying to not use it too much because sometimes when she would sing, especially right in the beginning, she would start coughing. Her throat would tickle because of her allergies, and she would get into these coughing fits. And what we learned was the best way for her to have a clean performance, a clean voice, was to spend more time in a vocal warm-up session. And I'm a big believer in that. People always think I'm crazy because I call myself a vocal health expert, but with contemporary use of your voice, so not the classical kind, but you're really if you have been talking at all, like if you have a show at night, if you've been talking at all during the day, your voice is warm. So I'm not a huge warm-up kind of person, but people with allergies, I tell them you have to. You have to, because I've learned over and over again that people with allergies have to really warm their voice. There's some that to work that tickle out. And the more you exercise that voice and get it nice and warm, then you're clean and you're fine and you don't have a problem.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, is there some sort of special warm-up exercises that help, or just more talking beforehand?
Yeah, there are a lot actually. I have a little 5-minute warm up that I recommend, but I would say for people with allergies, you need kind of the full on thing. But you want exercises that are going to exercise your full range. And the other piece of that is a lot of times when people warm up, they do vocal exercises, they will just sort of mark it, or they'll do it halfway. You have to do it full out. So kind of like you were talking about how it's hard for you to not fully project. You want to make sure that when you're doing exercises that you are using that full volume of your voice instead of like holding back and being soft. You want to really like let it be nice and full, so that you're really absolutely exercising that voice, getting a full stretch. It's kind of like, I always like to connect things to dance. And if a dancer is doing stretches before they dance and they don't really lean all the way into that stretch, they're missing out on really making sure those muscles are warm and ready to go. So it's the same with your voice. You want to exercise it all the way in terms of range and volume so that you are making sure that it's ready, that it's warm.
It's so crazy. I mean, voice is something you use every single day, but people don't. It's another thing. I mean, you're on this earth, and there's 10 million different workouts, how to lose weight and exercise, and this guy's got it right, this guy's got it right. It's just another thing that people don't think about until they need it.
Yeah, that's so true. And that is what I am on a mission to to kind of change the way the industry looks at it. So instead of waiting until it's a problem, learning how to prevent it to begin with, so it never is a problem.
Well, I mean, so start at the beginning. Do you go to schools? Have you tried to do anything for elementary schools or high schools and to teach that, or to have a class for them?
I am in the process of reaching out to some schools. I'm looking at performing arts high schools and colleges at the moment, because I want to speak to that level first, because that's where people are getting more serious about it. They're thinking about it as a career.
Right.
So getting them there where it's really top of mind is my goal. The hard thing about it is that what I have to say kind of flies in the face of what a lot of other vocal coaches are saying. And so I know that it's in the past 20 years, that like every time that I've tried to reach out to people, it's not always very well received. And that's why I say, like, I've learned that this is a secret, that people don't know that this is real, that this is a thing that can happen. And so actually there's a section in the book that I just wrote that is each section of the book has a chapter that I call I don't know, I hope this is okay for me to say this word, but I call it the bullshit breakdown. And it's where I talk about all the elements of vocal technique that are out there that are actually furthering the lies and the myths and the bad technique that are causing problems. Each section of the book has one of those that talks about, here are the things that you're hearing out in the world, and here's why this is a problem. Here's why this is it's advancing your abilities to lose your voice. It's not helping. So I know I'm going to be ruffling some feathers with that, but I'm used to it at this point.
Well, and the thing is, I'm sitting here, we're recording in our magic room tonight, in my magic room.
Yeah.
And I have a book sitting next to me. It's by Greg Irwin. He was a pianist, and he was practicing, and he had hand fatigue. So he designed all these exercises to, work on the piano, but he teaches them to any kind of artists, surgeons, magicians, musicians, and magicians focus on their hands. But magicians also need to be able to speak. They need to be able to hear you. You need to be able to project.
Yes.
You can't lose your voice. We cannot cancel a show. It kills me. One of the things, Katie, that kills me as an entertainer is, God bless us, we have a theater booked. Thank God. All these people have bought tickets. They got babysitters. They've rearranged their schedule. They've done all this stuff. And then Madonna cancels her concert because she's fatigued or she's lost her voice.
Right.
And it's like, you can't do that to 20,000 fans. You can't do that to 50 fans. It just...
Well, it's even bigger than that, but I totally hear you, and that is my heartbeat. That is why I am on this mission. It's that right there is what breaks my heart, brings tears to my eyes every time I hear about someone canceling a show because of voice loss. Because, sorry.
That's all right.
Because I know, oh my God, I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
You're all right. Is it a dog or a kid?
Yes. We are babysitting someone else's dog, and it has a piercing bark.
Tell him he's going to lose his voice.
He's got no voice problems, yeah.
Yeah, right? So anytime that happens, it just absolutely breaks my heart. And yes, it breaks their hearts too. And a lot of times when someone big and famous has to cancel something, they will put out some big message to their fans saying, I'm so sorry that this happened. I care about all of you, and I'm so sorry, and whatever.
And we'll do it again next week. They've already hired a babysitter for that night. They've already done all this stuff. Now they have to do it again?
Yes. They have to do it again.
It just doesn't work.
Yes,
You're not going to get 20,000 people.
It stretches even farther, because then it's also the venue
Right.
that hired all those employees that night, or that the presenter who was able to get the act in and made the arrangement with the venue, and all of those people are affected by it. So there's a whole lot of money that is lost just because of something that is preventable.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. That's every time I see that. And another one they say is fatigue, or what is it? They had to get IV because they're dehydrated and fatigue, and it's like, well, yeah, all right. So these big people, they have a crew that will take care of them. You need water, they have assistants. Get water.
Yes.
I don't understand. Are they staying up all night partying? I don't know what they're doing. Just it's a job, people.
I firmly believe it's that technique piece is out of alignment. And the reason I believe that is because, like I said, I've been working with singers and actors and speakers for over 20 years, and I've never once had someone come to me that already knew how to do it right. And I'm working primarily with professionals. And so I really think that that's what it is, that they don't know how to take care of themselves in a way that's not going to cause that to happen to them. They don't know how to prevent it because they don't know how to do their technique has been, if they've learned anything, they've learned something that doesn't apply to them. Because most of what's out there is something that only applies to a very small group of people, which in the singing world is opera singers, classical singers. And that technique does not apply to anything else, but it's the only thing that's taught.
Right.
And it causes a lot of people to have problems.
Yeah.
So we have listeners in 41 different countries now. And
Awesome.
I know we have public speakers. I know we have magicians. I know we have singers. I know we have actors all listening to the podcast. Would they be better to join your academy or your private coaching, or what's the difference there?
Yeah, I think it depends. So my academy is a group program. So a lot of times it just depends on how you prefer to learn. Some people learn better in a group environment, and some people learn better in a one-on-one environment. So the academy is a year-long program where they get a class. I teach a class once a month, and then at the end of the month we have an opportunity for each person to come into class and get some one-on-one time with me with whatever they're working on. In between, we have a group where they can submit videos for coaching and feedback in between the two classes. And that's kind of how the academy works. We have a different unit every month that we're working on, all in the area of technique and performance and confidence, the confident mindset you need to go after the goal and achieve it. So that's what happens in my academy. On the private end, there are a couple of different options, but I have more goal-oriented private coaching for people that have a competition they want to win, or a role they want to book, or a band they want to front. So we work towards a big goal. And then I also have private coaching that is specifically designed for vocal health prevention, which is much more comprehensive and one-on-one, hands-on. And the best way to figure out what's the best for you is to just set up a time in my calendar for us to have a conversation and figure out what's going to be the best.
And your book, where's your book available?
My book is available at neverloseyourvoice.com. So the book is called Never Lose Your Voice Again, The Secret to Unlimited Vocal Health for Singers, Actors, and Speakers.
And it has that 3-step process in the book?
It does.
Nice.
It outlines the whole method. So yeah, I'm in the process of getting my vocal health method, which is called Unlimited Vocal Health. I'm in the process of getting it patented.
Oh, nice.
Because I really want to make sure that people understand this is a legit thing.
Yeah. Well, you have, looking at your one of your websites there, I saw a lot of testimonials of people, and it's all positive and all good feedback that just sounds like it's proven.
Are you reading my notes?
No.
That was the next thing I was going to comment on.
Oh, really?
She's got video. You have videos on your website with these testimonials. It's not just made up people. Some of these testimonials on some of these sites, there was a magician that I knew that he had a testimonial how great he was on his website, and it was his wife. And his wife used her maiden name so people wouldn't know. These are real, legitimate testimonials, and they're awesome. I mean, and they're heartfelt. I mean, these people were really appreciative of you. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely. It's definitely a nice place for me to go if I'm having a bad day.
There you go. Nice
No,
boost.
they were really appreciative.
Yeah.
That was great. That was really good testimonials.
Yeah, thank you. I've done two of them, but I recently did a much more comprehensive one, but I've done two vocal health case studies designed to walk people through that have been having massive vocal health issues, to walk them through my method, and then share their results along the way. And so that is available as well to look at online on my website. You can check out, and that's where some of those video testimonials are there as well, is on that vocal health case study information. It's pretty fascinating, the experience that these people had, and some of them I knew and some of them I did not know at all. It was really fun. It was a fun project that I did just over the spring.
And that says it all there, that they've had, such success with it. So, yeah.
So what's coming up? What do you got going on in the future? You have all this stuff going on now. What's the next thing you want to do?
Yeah, so in the new year, I'm going to be starting to reach out, particularly in Vegas. There are a lot of residencies coming to town, and from quite a few people that I know have had vocal health issues. So I am going to do whatever I can to get in their eyesight, and I'm going to try to move my way into working with some of these bigger people, because I know that they need it. And I know they need it too, but most people don't know it's possible. So I have to educate people that it's possible. So I'm going to be working on attracting some of the bigger recording artists and performers and speaking gig people. So, yeah.
Dude, that is awesome. Well,
Thanks.
keep us in the loop. Let us know what you got going on. We'll be happy to promote anything you got coming up.
Thank you.
NeverLoseYourVoice.com, SingWithoutLimits.com, KattiPower.com. That's KattiPower.com. Katie, you were awesome. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, and thanks for having me. I'm going to throw out one more link, if that's all right with you.
Go for it.
I mentioned that the best way to figure out what kind of work you want to do with me is to have a conversation with me, and the best place to go to do that is just getmypowerup.com.
Getmypowerup.com.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, go hit some magicians in Vegas as well while you're out there. I mean,
I will. That's a great idea.
I'm telling you, because when you're out there doing, Copperfield, I think, is doing 9 shows a week. Fatigue. It happens. You can't.
It does.
They don't teach that in magic books. And
no.
I think I had an epiphany tonight about the allergy thing, because the last time it really seized up was that outside event, and that was traumatic to me. So I had a thing growing up where I didn't want to wear glasses on stage, because if I had magic powers, that would have been the first thing I fixed. And then doing research, there's other magicians that wear glasses, and I'm just being a kid and I'm being silly. But when they see me lock up on stage and I can't talk and my eyes start watering and I can't get a word out without like a cough, like it would scratch, and you don't want to cough on a microphone. And you just freeze. And hold on, guys. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. My throat. Natalie, can I have water? Oh my gosh. Hold on, guys. And I'm trying to take a breath, and boy, you lost all your power right there. This show is at a standstill. And that's something that I never want to happen again. So I'm going to look into all this stuff. So
that's awesome.
Thank you for reaching out to us. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being awesome. And
thank you for having me. This was really fun.
How about like Facebook or Twitter or any of that? Do you have any of those handles?
Yes, yeah. So I'm on Facebook. It's my handle's Katti Power, KattiPower. Instagram, I think we're Sing Without Limits. I have someone else that manages that for me, so I don't really know. I think it's Sing Without Limits. And then my TikTok is Katti Power also.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I got one more question for you before you wrap everything up. When they're doing these international competitions, I would think, and this sounds silly, but do they bring their own song to the competition? It sounds like it'd be more, but doesn't it sound like it would be more challenging to say, here's this song, you got, 2 hours to learn it?
Yeah, that would be extremely challenging. I don't know if I don't know of any contests that do that.
Right. I mean, you're at the World Championship. If you're so good, sing this one.
Yeah, no, everyone gets to prepare in advance, but
Right.
you know, it's very competitive in terms of what they're going to pick, and song selection is one of the biggest questions that singers have. How do I pick the right songs for me? So that's one of my favorite things to do with singers, is help them pick the songs that are the very best for them.
Well, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want a new category. I want a new
Yeah.
category. Here, just
You're
throw this at
inspiring
them.
me. Maybe I'll create this contest.
There you go. There you go. Hey, Katie, thanks so much. You were awesome. Hey, stay on the line.
thanks.
We have a couple plugs real quick, and then we'll wrap everything up. You have anything else?
No.
All right. So, I don't know. Guys, Wes Iseli's Magiclife is now in syndication with...
Golden Media Syndication.
I thought you were going to do the thing tonight. I thought you were
No.
doing the plug. We're with Golden Media Syndication. We have our television show in Houston, Knoxville, and Nashville. And if we're not in your local hometown in the next couple months, check your local listings or call your cable company and say, hey, we want Wes Iseli's Magiclife on our network too, and hopefully we'll be there. And check out our merch line at wesisley.com for logo t-shirts, hats, playing cards, and a ton more. See you next week. Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Isley for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled Wesiseli.